Hello, and welcome to Best of, a month-long marathon that spotlights the very best episodes of the very best sci-fi shows as chosen by you, the fans. On deck today, we've got a Stargate trifecta. SG1, Season 2, Episode 15, The Fifth Race. Stargate Atlantis, Season 5, Episode 6, The Shrine. Stargate Universe, Season 2, Episode 12, Twin Destinies. I'm your host, Joseph Mallozzi, writer, producer, showrunner. You may know me from such productions as, coincidentally, Stargate SG1, Stargate Atlantis, Stargate Universe, and Dark Matter. By the way, that's the 2015 ship-based show, not the more recent Apple series that is also a sci-fi show with the exact same name and title font. My co-host today is a professional film editor and visual effects artist, as well as a host of the Undoomed One YouTube channel, Undoomed. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, how's it going?
Excellent. I think everything's going swimmingly. I'm actually traveling today, so I kind of ducked out to do this because, of course, it's Stargate, and of course, I didn't want to let you guys all down. So tell me, Undoomed, you're a big sci-fi fan, yes?
Yes, for sure.
Big Stargate fan.
Oh yeah, that's my favorite show, for sure.
I figured because when I reached out to you and I was like, hey, I'm doing this best of series. What do you want to talk about? And you jumped on the opportunity to do Stargate. So, I mean, so obviously, did you discover it late? Did you discover it early? When did you discover the franchise?
Well, the thing is, I saw the pilot and I was like, oh my God, this is shit. I'm not watching this again. It was really corny. They had those big bulb heads, the Jaffa, right? And it just looked like crap. And I was like, nope.
Right.
And then my buddy kept watching it. So he's like, no, you got to come back. It gets better. It really does. So yeah, after a couple episodes, I got back into it. And then, it really did get so much better the more time went on. So I was completely hooked there. The first season is a little bit rough,
As are most first seasons.
Oh yeah, like Star Trek TNG season 1 is shit. I guess that's a rite of passage that at least in the late 90s, early 2000s, it was kind of expected, like you say.
Right.
But there were some really weird episodes like that one where Samantha Carter gets kidnapped by Mongols.
So it's funny that you said. You came to it not exactly late, but you first checked it out and you thought it wasn't for you. I think you saw the pilot. For me, it was Emancipation. This is prior to my involvement on the series. I was like, oh, this looks kind of cool, and I watched it, and I watched that episode, Emancipation, which I think is ranked like one of the worst episodes the show has ever produced, over like 300 plus episodes.
I think so.
And I was like, yeah, and I was like, I can't watch this show, and then. A month later, my agent, contacted us and said, "Hey, they're looking for writers." And I just said, "Look, I honestly, I don't think I can write this show just based on the episode I watched." But he's like, "Well, here, look at these scripts. They sent some scripts. They sent some episodes, and I think actually the Fifth Race may have been one of the episodes that they sent over." And I realized, wow, that early episode was an aberration. This show is actually quite good, and then we, ended up on the show.
Right.
But. Let's start by talking about the Fifth Race, written by our friend Robert C. Cooper, who started as a writer on the show and worked his way up to become a co-showrunner and co-creator of Atlantis and Stargate Universe. And this is Rob firing on all cylinders. I mean, he was kind of the brainiac behind the Ancients and that kind of the whole storyline. And this episode introduces kind of the idea of the five. Is it the four races? The four races? I think.
Well, the humans will be the fifth race, right?
The fifth race. Thank you.
Right. And, I'm kind of curious. We hear so little about the writers and directors. Like, is there any sort of little anecdote you could share to summarize Robert's personality and David Worry-Smith's? What kind of guys are these people? We see so little about
David
them.
David Worry-Smith was before my time on the show. So I joined in season 4. This episode was season 2. And actually, I'm quite surprised it's season 2 because I assumed it would be season 3 just because of how, by that point, it felt like this show was firing on all cylinders, and it takes like a season or sometimes two for a show to really, I think, really get going. But it was season 2, and so again, this was before my time, so I didn't know Dave, but of course I know Rob, and I know the kind of writer he is. Rob's a funny guy. He doesn't suffer fools. So he knows what he wants. He knows what he likes, and he's brutally honest about what works for him and what doesn't. And sometimes it can kind of rub you the wrong way, but you respect that and you kind of appreciate that over time.
Right.
And it's funny because I think he's an excellent writer. I think he's an excellent director because he would go on to direct Atlantis' Theta and Universe's Time and Malice and other episodes. The one thing I would say Rob is not good at is naming alien races. So
he came up with the Furlings.
Yeah, he came up with the Furlings, and it's funny because when one of the first things he asked of me when I arrived on Stargate, it was like season 4, and we were sitting in our office setting up, and he comes into my office like, I need you to come up with a name of this race in Scorched Earth. We'd written this episode called Scorched Earth, and he wanted the name for these aliens. He wanted me to name the aliens, and so I came up with a bunch of names. And I remember, I think I still have that list somewhere. And one of the suggestion was Janai that ended up being used for Atlantis. Right. But I came up with Gadmir, and I was like, why can't you just come up with your own alien names? And he's like, no, I can't do that anymore. Ever since the Furlings, and it's funny because according to him, he realized what a horrible mistake he had made after naming the Furlings, because all the fans, kind of wondered, when are we going to see these, kind of carefree Care Bears of outer space, these adorable furry little creatures? And he's like, I just realized I can never reveal them. Yes, until episode 200, when we actually did kind of see them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this was the first time both the Furlings and the Ancients were mentioned in this episode, the 5th race. So I don't know why the Asgard would call him or call them Ancients, but there you go.
Yeah, that's a question for Rob.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he's not on social media, really. I think he uses a TikTok like most of the kids these days, but he's unfortunately not on X. I don't think he's on Facebook or Instagram. But try to track him down on TikTok. I'm sure he's there somewhere.
Yeah, he's a smart one.
He is. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, it really struck me that you can really see how they have already back in season 2 started introduce this sort of humor that became a staple for SG1. There's a lot of humorous moments in this episode. Yes,
and one of the things that really struck me was the characters are very much the characters they would be in later seasons. I mean, sometimes you get those, the prototypes of those early characters, and the writers and the actors are trying to sort of work them out. But at this point, both the actors, the producers, and clearly the cast are very comfortable with these characters, and they are great. Like you said, it just, all 4 of them are funny in very different ways. And of course, Rick being Rick, gets a lot of the funniest lines or the funniest moments in this episode. There's a moment where he's boxing Teal'c.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that the moment where he's boxing Teal'c and Teal'c wallops him, and then he's like, bend your Kosars. And having been in a fantasy football league with Rob for many, many, many years, I can't help but wonder if Kosar's was a kind of a tip of the hat to Bernie Kosar, former Cleveland Brown, was kind of criticized for his, feet of clay and his inability to sort of scramble out of danger. That's the use of the term Kosars for knees.
I've heard that story too. I mean, you would know better if it's true or not, but I've heard that too.
Well, he is a football fan.
Oh, well, that figures, I guess. Could be. Yeah, so one thing that I thought was weird, though, was like, okay, so Carter is the biggest genius ever, right? Even McKay says she's smarter than him. And she couldn't figure out base 8 math. That was like weird. I guess, was that like the writers who just thought that was Greek to them? So they're like, nah, there's no way she'd be able to figure that out. It seemed kind of obvious. And I went back and freeze framed the blackboard, and you can see that there is no 8s, no 9s anywhere on the blackboard. So they did the homework, whoever wrote the blackboard.
Interesting. Yes. This is the what is it? The introduction of the H chevron for traveling outside the Milky Way Stargate network. I have to admit also one of the reasons why I picked these three particular, or why I was happy with the selection of these three picks by the fans, is that they're not my episodes and I don't have to answer to any specific questions. So in this case, good point. And I would have to take that up with Rob.
Yeah, I mean it's not a huge deal or anything. I just, since we're talking, it's interesting to point out what we've noticed, I think. So that was fun. I also noticed that when O'Neill comes back with a sketch on how to save Carter, and it's all these elaborate drawings and looks great. And down in the corner, you can see like, okay, if this doesn't work, see ya. somebody in the prop department had fun there. So it's like, and if you have the full HD version, you can actually pause and see that. So that's kind of funny. Oh my gosh,
yes, the full HD version. Yeah, the props department would always have fun with, or the art department would always have fun with that kind of stuff. We would get concept art, for instance, for all the episodes. And I mentioned once one of my favorite pieces of concept art, like, there'll be ship interiors, or you want to build a ship, this is what the ship's going to look like, or the interior of this place or that place or this costume. But what was it? Ghost in the Machine, Stargate Atlantis, and that final scene where the replicators, the human form replicators, get spaced. They go through the gate and they're floating in space at the end.
Right.
I still have it. It's concept art of that final scene, and it's just these stick figures floating in space. And I thought it was brilliant. Should have it framed.
Well, I mean, that's the opposite end of it, because you post a lot of concept art on your Twitter page, and it's amazing how almost identical they came out in the show. They must have had a major headache making all that stuff real.
Yeah, our teams were,
because it's so similar.
Yeah, our teams were great. I also recall that we had concept art from Window of Opportunity. I had up in my office. It was the first piece of concept art I've ever received. It was my first, pretty much our first episode. Scorchers was our first episode, but I think Window of Opportunity, closely followed. And we put that up in the room, and that, over the years, the sun, kind of shining in through the window, it began to fade and fade and fade. And I think it was like sometime around season 9, my former writing partner, Paul Mully, was sitting in my office, and he kind of looked up and noticed how faded it was. And he's like, it's like the picture of Dorian Gray. Once that concept art is completely faded from you, that's when the show is going to end. And sure enough, season 10, it ended.
Right. That's too bad.
It was actually too bad. And I don't know how many people know this, although if you're a diehard fan, you probably do know, because I've repeated this story before. But we found out about the cancellation at our, was it the 300th episode party for SG1, I think. And it was very weird. It was a very festive mood, and then the announcement was made by the MGM executive that the show would not be coming back for an 11th season. And I mean, it was like a party atmosphere, so no one was really listening to the speech, and people no one seemed kind of perturbed. And I turned to Paul, my writing partner, I was like, "Did he just say we got canceled?" And he's like, "I think we did." And so season 10 turned out to be our last season for the show. It was one of those few occasions where we were able to write a proper series finale, which Unending was. Again, Robert Cooper, who wrote this episode, wrote the finale for that. But we were almost picked up for an 11th season. MGM was in talks with Apple at the times to essentially save the show and run an 11th and final season of SG1 on, I guess, iTunes, for iTunes. And it looked really positive. It looked like it was going to happen. And then Sci-Fi exercised a clause in their contract that prohibited the show from going to another network after they canceled them. I'm not sure what the name of that particular clause is the, I don't know, the embitterment clause, the petty clause. I don't know.
Like a non-compete.
Yes, something like that, which was we thought kind of ridiculous, but
coincidentally, you said this happened when you were celebrating your 300th episode, and the 300th episode, according to my notes, is the Atlantis episode we're going to talk about later.
Oh, well then, why don't we do when we roll into Atlantis, and then we can just kind of circle back when we want to. So this is Brad Wright at his finest. He was always really good at character-driven stories that really hit home and very memorable moments. But he was also like obviously like a big sci-fi fan, and he always came with the big sci-fi ideas. And this is an episode we called "Reverse Flowers for Algernon" in the room. Because obviously inspired by the...
I was going to bring that up, like if there was some inspiration from that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. This was the 300th episode of the franchise. So I guess the 200 was the SG1 celebration. This one was 300, or maybe not. No, yes, it had to be, because by this point, SG1 had already been canceled.
Right.
Speaking of great character moments, it's not a moment that a lot of the fans remember, but it's a pivotal moment for McKay and his relationship with Keller at the end, that like final beat where she goes back to the recording and he admits his love for her. And, I thought that was a kind of very nice.
That exact line is repeated in that episode, Brainstorm. She repeats it back to him, word for word.
Really? I did not know it was word for word. Martin Garrow doing his homework.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. It's funny. Their relationship was kind of controversial. I don't really recall why exactly. I don't know. I guess if any of the fans who objected could kind of weigh in. But I guess for me, it wasn't so much controversial, but we'd kind of set up also briefly the idea that both Ronan and McKay were interested in her.
Mm-hmm.
And then she ends up choosing McKay, which I don't know. I take it. Let's ask an impromptu poll here of everybody listening. Just reply in the comments. You have a choice between dating Ronan or Rodney McKay. Who would you choose? I would bet Ronan would edge out McKay.
Certainly in the looks department.
Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
You want brains or bronze? It's the question, I guess.
I suppose.
But maybe it has some. I don't know. Maybe they missed the other girlfriend. What was her name? I forget. He had a previous girlfriend.
Oh, yes. Was it Katie?
Yes,
Katie.
I think so. Yeah.
Yes. And it's interesting. Katie, I forget her last name, but I'm sure the fans will remember in no time. What was interesting about his relationship with her, that character, is Martin Garrow pitched the idea of making Rodney a father in season, I think it was season 5, yeah. And so we were going to go down that road. We discussed it and everything. And then Rachel Luttrell, who played Teal'c, became pregnant in real life. And so rather than do the kind of the silly, she's shooting her sitting all the time or behind this or behind that, we decided to write the pregnancy into the storyline, and so that became the story, the Teal'c pregnancy story, and as a result, we ended up killing the McKay pregnancy. We also ended up killing the kind of the one of the things we'd be playing with was kind of the John Teal'c will they won't they potential burgeoning romance. That at that point we never pursued. Once she became pregnant, the decision was it couldn't. We couldn't do that because it couldn't be John. It would be very, how we say, unprofessional of him.
Yeah.
To, so we decided to ditch that storyline as well. So it's interesting how.
Yeah, I think that was a good idea. I never got the vibe that they were going to do it or not do it.
More brother sister.
Yeah, exactly. I thought they were close, but very professional.
By the way, oh, well, okay. I was going to say impromptu poll. I'd say so far, I think it's like 10-2 Ronan. So, but I don't know. Like I said, maybe, I mean, she's kind of a nerd. Maybe she sees something in him in that moment, or maybe, I don't know, she was partially brain damaged in the episode The Seed, I think season 4. And I don't know.
No, but she is a nerd, so I guess that figures.
Yes,
they had a moment, but maybe she wants someone who's a little more brainy than Ronan.
Yeah, maybe a little more grounded. Sure.
Okay.
By the way, this was the was this the first appearance of Kate Hewlett as David's sister?
I think this is the last appearance.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, that's right. McKay and Mrs. Miller was her first appearance. And here she comes back to.
I think she's an awesome character, and they have such great chemistry. Obviously, being real life brother and sister. So all of her episodes are really good.
Yeah, she's a terrific actress, and I mean their scenes together are fantastic. And again, I'm not sure if this is true. This is what I heard was that David actually improvised some of the dialogue in that farewell message he sends to his sister, and apparently it was quite emotionally resonant.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was a beautiful speech sort of thing. So that's cool. Yeah. So let me ask you this: when they go to the cave, right? And they're going to drill a hole in his head. I kind of figured it's probably okay to use a drill, but how the hell can you put someone out without anesthesiology and, the whole intubation and all that stuff? Did you have any medical advisors or anything?
This one's a question for Brad. However, in terms of, I know he did a fair amount of research into everything from, Alzheimer's to memory loss to these types of situations where parasites will travel up to your brain. I remember reading about like this. Someone my agent knew went out for sushi and had like a parasite infest her brain.
Whoa!
I wonder if that was the inspiration for Brad's idea. But in terms of, I mean, cleanliness is obviously they really, I mean, they need to ensure that there's no potential for infection. But in terms of sedatives, I mean, you could perform brain surgery, if I understand. Kind of without the necessarily anesthetic, because the brain doesn't feel pain, crazy as it sounds.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, you're going to drill into the skull.
True.
That should hurt.
True.
I don't know if she has whatever it takes in her little bag to put him out like that, but it's just a little detail. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I assume she would have quite a bit in that little bag of her. I'm not sure.
There's one episode, I think that's the one when Keller and Carter and McKay falls into a hole.
Oh, trio.
And in that episode, she only has ibuprofen. That's all.
Right. Well, because she used it all up. Or, no, actually, this was before. I don't have an answer for this one. Richard Koenig says trepanning has been around since the Middle Ages.
Yeah, but can you... I mean, I assume it was extremely painful, and McKay is out cold. Anyway, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Let's move on to my favorite scene, which is probably the beer scene when they are on the pier.
Oh, the pier scene, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, that's one that the fans always sort of, refer to when they talk about this episode.
It's great, yeah, because sometimes Shepard is so like it almost seems like he really does dislike McKay sometimes. So it was great for them to have like a real moment showing that they actually are friends.
Yes, actually. That's why I think it works so effectively, because they have this they're almost like squabbling sibling relationship, and he gets on Shepard's nerves, Shepard gets on his nerves, but at the end of the day, that John really, really cares. And obviously, even though McKay would never say it, in the condition he was in, he obviously cares for John, and John is the one he goes to, or Arthur, if you will. Although the original scripted name was Jim, and they changed it to Arthur.
Right, from that movie.
From Arthur, the movie Arthur.
That's supposedly a homage to that movie.
Oh, okay.
Don't know if it's true, but that's what I've heard.
Out of curiosity, if you were to pick the best episodes of SG1, Atlantis, and Universe for this best of series, are these the episodes you would have picked?
No.
No. Oh for 3.
Well, I don't know about Universe, because I find it really hard to judge individual episodes in a serialized series, right? It's like all the storylines flow together, and I don't know, it's one story, right? It's hard to say which episode is best, but I really like the Universe episodes where they have to go get food or air, or there's an immediate. I guess that's early in season 1, I suppose.
That's season 1. Water.
They have all these objectives, and they have to sort that out. That I like those ones. But in terms of if we talk about SG1, I mean, obviously, Wormhole X-treme is great. I mean, there's no denying that Wind of Opportunity is the best one. But anything with Marty, like Point of No Return, Wormhole X-treme, 300 or 200.
You like the funnier episodes?
Yeah, I think it
the more humorous episodes.
Yeah, I think it gels so much with SG1 and it with Atlantis as well, but especially in SG1. I also like the ones where it's like a lot of cloak and daggers, like Nightwalkers. Right. I don't know if people hate Jonas Quinn or not. I have no idea, but I like that episode.
I'm a big Corin Nemec fan, so yeah, absolutely. We wrote that one. You kind of like the offbeat episodes, which is a lot of fans don't necessarily appreciate those as much, which is kind of surprising. But it's always interesting to see what people would choose as their favorites. Like Brandon here mentioned the other side for SG1, and the season 1, the Atlantis season 1 finale, which I believe was.
It wasn't really a 3-parter. It was like 3 episodes that connected, kind of thing.
Yes. This is terrible. I mean, even though I have written for the show, I don't.
That reminds me. I have to ask you. Who's the big CSI fan that made Vegas?
Oh, that would be Robert Cooper. So Rob wrote and directed the episode. Yeah, he had a vision in mind. Definitely.
He's a huge fan of CSI.
Yes, I know. I don't think he's a huge fan, but he knows the visual cues, right? Because it's such a class. They're so classic now. By the way, Brandon points out the Siege. Yes, that's it.
Oh, okay. I thought you said finale.
The season 1 finale. I think Siege part 1, part 2, and then part 3. Yeah.
Right. I just heard finale, and season 1 dropped out, so I thought you were talking about the Vegas stuff and all that. Yeah,
but Vegas actually is a fan favorite, even though it is kind of atypical and unique. It's always kind of fun to see the road not taken. Seeing our characters in different scenarios. I love the parallel world storylines. I also love the time travel storylines. In fact, actually, one of my favorite Rob Cooper episodes was Time, Stargate Universe, which is a kind of a mind-blowing episode. I remember him coming into the room and pitching it, and he had all the beats down except for the ending. He didn't know how to end it. And then finally he came up with the ending. I thought the ending is brilliant, although, it never failed. When every time it would air, the fans would get online and be like, what? Did I miss an episode? They assumed this was just the first part of a 2-parter, because you kind of left things hanging at the end and just kind of left it up to the audience to figure out the fact that our team figures it out.
Right.
Hang on. Amanda has requested to speak. Amanda, what would you like to weigh in with?
Hello.
Hello.
Sorry. I actually just started loving that Vegas episode because I'm such a big fan, I think. And I just thought your take on it was kind of interesting because I always was mad about it whenever I was like a young fan.
Yeah. What?
And that's because the movie never happened, I think. But you had this episode with the body switching right before, and then you had this Vegas episode, which of course I totally dig the music and everything. And
the music is awesome in that one.
it is so good.
Yeah.
And also the idea of seeing the opposite side. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask, was that the metal music? Apart from Marilyn Manson, there's another metal song in there that's awesome. Was that bespoke, written for your show, or?
I would have to check on the song itself. I know that Rob licensed quite a few songs for that episode.
I remember recognizing them all, but I haven't watched it very recently. It was a couple years ago. But I do know that, of course, there was Johnny Cash and what did you say, Marilyn Manson? And there was one other one.
Yeah, the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, my husband was in here. He would definitely know. But I just had to say that after having like all these great emotional like arcs at the very end of the season, going into kind of, we're going to do something. It was very jarring for it to be a body switching episode and then Vegas and then the end. And then no movie? I just felt so bad for you guys because like it broke my heart.
It broke our heart too. I mean, I mentioned before that we had written the script and Rob Cooper had told us, you guys should just shoot it. Ask MGM for extra money to just shoot it at the end of season 5 so that if you don't get picked up, that'll be the movie. And if you do get picked up, it'll be the opening 2-parter for season 6. And so we made the request and they never got back to us. So we ended up wrapping and the rest is history. We did not get to make our movie or get that season 6. Still bummed about that.
Oh yeah.
And I really thought it was going to happen. I had to chime in because I've always felt like, oh man, I really wanted that like wonderful crescendo ending that I knew you guys could have had if you'd just known you weren't going to have a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as finales go, though, Enemy at the Gate actually kind of works, although it does leave a lot of questions, unanswered. But as a kind of a final image of them, in San Francisco on Atlantis. It's kind of a nice, memorable ending. Although I would say my favorite ending is still the Stargate Universe ending. And since we're talking, I mentioned Stargate Universe, let's get into Twin Destinies, which once again is Brad Wright doing what he does best.
Right.
Again, character-driven story with
directed by Peter DeLuise.
Peter DeLuise, yes. I wonder how many. I can't recall how many episodes he directed of Universe. I think not that many. I mean, he was directing quite a bit of SG1, and then he moved on to Atlantis, and then he moved on to to do other stuff. But then he came back, and he even directed an episode of my show Dark Matter. But this was a great episode and great performances all around. I mean, this cast was phenomenal. But Lou Diamond Phillips, brilliant as always.
Oh yeah.
And I like again, as Brad is wont to do, just bring to life these big sci-fi ideas, these big sci-fi concepts, and time anomalies have always been my favorite. Reading and watching. In terms of writing, they're the hardest to do. They're the hardest to pull off because you have to stay true to the rules within the framework you have created.
I mean, the thing I really hate about some time travel stories is when they just get to the end and nothing happened. Nothing mattered. It's just a big reset. Yeah. And Voyager did this all the time. It's so tiring. Like they just had like some time shenanigans and then they just go back in time and it fixes and it never happened. It literally never happened, right?
Right. Right.
That is frustrating.
Yeah,
that is super frustrating.
I think the better kind of time travel, time anomaly episodes are the ones that I think you can reset time but you still possess the memories of what happened. So, for instance, the series finale, Unending, you know, time kind of resets, but Teal'c is the only one who has the memories of his relationship with Sam, for instance.
Yes. So he's acting like the anchor for the audience, and he can, you know, Sam Carter can go up and like, hey, it's got to kill you to not tell us, or whatever she says, right? That's a great way to carry it through. But like they did in Voyager, and like nobody remember anything, and it just starts off with the same shot that the whole thing started with, and now we're gonna go here. And yeah, that's what you said 45 minutes ago.
I'm wondering, you know, one of the things I want to do is, you know, and I'm still kind of in the process of thinking and rethinking it, is I want to follow up this best of series with something called Time Loopalooza. And I wanted to spotlight every time loop episode every sci-fi series has ever done. And then I started to deep dive, and it turns out it wasn't just sci-fi shows that have done them. There's, you know, cartoons have done them, anime has done them. I think some comedies, I think Community and the Mindy Project have done them. And so I put together a list, and the list is like 75 episodes long. I think maybe it should be like a 2-month thing. Or, you know, or maybe I should take a break after best of. I don't know. I still got to figure it out. And then there's a question of what, you know, at the end of the day qualifies as a time loop episode, because there are a lot of episodes that seem like time loops but are not actual time loops. And yet, although the conceit is very kind of similar, kind of there's kind of a looping element to it. So I got to look into that. But for those of you listening in, do tell, would you like to do a time loop themed marathon next? Let me know.
I'm sure they will.
And then we can check out. Yes. I mean, like Window of Opportunity is an obvious one, but for instance, an episode that gets a lot of love from Fringe fans is White Tulip, which I haven't seen and is mentioned as a time loop episode, but others point out it technically isn't a time loop episode. So I feel as though
what show was that?
I should the Fringe, White Tulip.
Oh, Fringe. Okay, I have seen that show, but I don't remember it.
There's I think there's an Angel episode called, I think, Time Bomb, and they're saying, you know, that it's suggested to be a time loop episode, but then other people point out it's not. There's, I think, a Voyage episode called Coda that falls along the same line. Anyways, I think maybe at the end of the day, we just watch all 75 and we decide whether they're time loop episodes or they qualify or not.
Yeah, executive decision.
Yes.
So let me ask you this: in Universe, which is your favorite character?
Oh my gosh, that's a tough one. My favorite character, honestly, I think I like Greer. Sergeant Greer.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Yes.
Really? Yeah, he was a lot of fun to write for.
Oh my God, I love Greer. That's my favorite character.
Jameel Walker-Smith, phenomenal actor. Just really did his homework for the role. And, you know, whenever I would write for him, but this applies to this entire cast, by the way, the entire Universe cast. Whenever you would write for them, they would always, you know, deliver on what was on the page. But he was, you know, a joy to write for. And so why Greer for you?
I just have a really big soft spot for lovable assholes.
Right.
It's, you know, why I love Dr. House, why I love McKay. I was kind of suspecting or hoping that if Atlantis would have gone on, Kavanaaugh would have had a similar kind of arc that Mayborn had. I love Mayborn. Anything with Mayborn, I love. So I figured that maybe Kavanagh would have had that kind of arc if the thing would have gone on. What do you think about that? Maybe. Is that something you thought about?
Kavanagh? No, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I mean, I like the character, but I never thought of kind of, you know, redeeming him in that way. Although, I mean, that's kind of the path we took with Bob Picardo's Woolsey. You know, he was a character who started off at SG1, kind of this annoying little, you know, pencil pusher. And then over the course of his appearances, we kind of redeemed him. He became more humorous, more vulnerable, so that by the end, you know, He was he was a lovable commander of the Atlantis expedition.
Yeah, yeah.
And I do recall actually, he had come and done the show a bunch of times, and Amanda had decided to leave to go do Sanctuary, and so we were looking for a new commander, and I automatically thought of Bob. And usually the way these things work is, you say, I'd like to cast this, let's make this person an offer. You contact the studio, they contact business affairs, they sit on it for your request for like weeks, and then they reach out to their agent, and their agent sits on it for weeks, and then they go back and forth and counter, and it just takes months.
Right.
And so I just called Bob because I knew Bob, and Bob is a friend of mine, and I was like, hey, this is what we would like to do. We'd like to make you commander of the Atlantis expedition. Would you be interested? He's like, yes. I'm like, okay, great. I contacted our casting agent, and I was like, just reach out to the agent and get this deal done. And the deal was done in I think that afternoon. It was the fastest I've ever closed an actor's deal.
That's awesome. I mean, he was a great character, so that was a good call.
Yes, he was absolutely amazing. He was, just like a joy to work with. And he's on a new Star Trek show now, shooting in Toronto. I saw him. He made my wife and my dog Sharky and I lunch a couple of months back. His world famous pizza, delicious.
Okay, nice.
Anyways, back to Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask because I heard David Blue is a huge Stargate fan and knew everything before he even joined.
Oh, that I did not know.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that. When we hired Ben Browder, or we cast him, he ended up watching every episode of Stargate SG1, which is, at the time, what were they, like 200 episodes or so, before he actually set foot on the stage. Ben was an absolute pleasure to work with. Really good guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he seems like a good guy. Seems like a guy you want to have a beer with.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember running into him. First time I ran into him was at what do they call the Saturn Awards, when we won for Atlantis won for best sci-fi series, which was kind of wild. The Saturn Awards are kind of fun. I think it's basically one guy or a bunch of people just decide on the winners, which at the end of the day, let's face it, it's like most award shows.
Sure.
But I remember going there, and there were I think James Cameron gave a speech, and then I think Ron Perlman won something. I saw him backstage, and I ran into Ben Browder, and I think he was being harangued by Sean Young at the time, and stopped and talked to him. And I remember Joss Whedon had won for something. I'm not sure what it was. If it was Dollhouse at the time. Him and Tim. Is it Tim Minear? Who's his longtime producing and partner, and Tim was very nice. I just actually gone by. Oh no, I think it was Firefly, because I remember going by their table and saying, "Hey, love the show, congratulations." And Tim was very effusive, and was like, "Oh, thank you, and what are you here for?" and blah 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 blah. But yeah. Anyways,
right.
Yeah. I look back at these Universe episodes, and it's really. I mean, it's too bad for all of them. Although SG1 got 10 seasons, and Atlantis did get the full 5, even though we had kind of planned for a 6th season, and we had kind of the story ideas all in place. But Universe was one that kind of really smarted, in that I think the show was really coming into its own. Like I mentioned earlier on, that the first seasons are always kind of rough.
Yeah.
But I think by the back half of season 1, it had found its footing, and it there were some great episodes, in that back half and beyond. And I look at the performances, and this was a show that, we almost got a 3rd season, like SG1 almost got an 11th season. I remember Brad coming into my office and saying, "Hey, the network reached out, and they want to talk about the possibility of picking us up for a 3rd and final season, which would have given us the opportunity to, end the show, and for Brad to bring to fruition the many ideas he had when he co-created the series with Rob Cooper.
Right.
And so we were under that impression, and then, as so often happens in this business, it just kind of went away, like the movie, like Atlantis season 6, like SG1 season 11. The opportunity kind of was there one moment and gone the next.
So how involved were you in the creation of Universe?
I would say not at all. Universe and Atlantis, and frankly SG1. I hesitate to say SG1, but I shouldn't. I mean, Universe and Atlantis were Brad Wright, Robert Cooper. SG1 was Jonathan Glasner and Brad Wright. But over time, the shows evolve thanks to the writers.
Right.
In the case of SG1, it was Rob, which is why he rose through the ranks to become an executive producer and co-showrunner. He really kind of shaped the storylines and the characters. And, and I guess Paul and I did as well. I mean, we were on SG1 for 6 seasons and Atlantis and Universe for the entire run.
Right.
But in terms of who created the show, I would say, it's Brad Wright and Robert Cooper.
Yeah, because I'm just curious if there was like a push from the network to like, hey, make it more like Battlestar Galactica.
No. It wasn't that at all. It was, I know Rob and Brad, prior to, was it season 7, before season 8, they had started putting together an idea for a spin-off called Stargate Command. And they never got the chance to do Stargate Command because the network kept on picking up SG1. And so I think elements of what would have been Stargate Command became seasons 9 and 10 of SG1, which is why I think a lot of fans point out that it's quite it's quite a departure. And in many ways, obviously, Universe is very much a departure tonally. From what I recall, Brad and Robert were going out and pitching. I think they very much had an idea of what they wanted to do. I don't think they had a title yet. I think they were pitching the show, and I think it was like Sci-Fi. One of the Sci-Fi networks was like, "Well, what are you calling it?" And off the top of his head, I think Rob said Stargate Universe as kind of a placeholder, and they loved it, and that stuck. So we ended up getting Stargate Universe. But yeah, I mean, I understand how it may have been jarring for fans because tonally, Atlantis was very much in the mold of SG1.
Yeah.
Whereas Universe was darker, and the humor wasn't as broad. So tonally, it was a very different show. And as a result, I think a lot of fans kind of were leery or unwilling to give it a chance. But it's interesting now because I see fans now going back and watching Universe, and a lot of them say, I hated it at the time, but I love it now,
right?
Which is heartening, I guess. Although after
it is one of those shows. Yeah, it is. I mean, that's true. I mean, the first time I saw it, I was like, "Wait, they're just going to do Battlestar Galactica now?" Like, what? It's an acquired taste, and you have to sort of know, when you know that and you go in, you can appreciate that it's like Robert Carlyle. He's kind of almost too good to appear in a show like this. Like, he should be in Oscar movies, right? And you can appreciate all that goodness. But the first time, it was jarring when I saw it the first time.
And the first time, did you sit through and watch the entire series run, or did you step away and then come back to it later?
No, I watched it as it came out. Yeah. I still liked it enough that I thought it's a good show, but I was like, what? I didn't get it.
It didn't strike you as Stargate.
Yeah, where's the optimism? Where's the humor? Like, it's kind of
right.
That was jarring. Yeah. And I was going to point that out in the first episode, The Fifth Race. It has a sort of optimism that is equal to or even surpassing Star Trek. It ends with O'Neill saying, that meaning of life stuff. Yeah, I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, that's another thing that I find whenever we go out to pitch these type of shows with humor, shows that are positive, I'm thinking specifically sci-fi shows, executives don't seem to like that type of sci-fi show. They seem to like the darker, broodier sci-fi shows, which is kind of ironic given that fans tend to prefer the more uplifting, positive type of sci-fi with the humor, which SG1 and Atlantis definitely were, and which is why they ran for a combined 15 seasons. But it's surprising that they haven't gotten it yet. But maybe eventually, maybe someday.
Yeah, I mean, it all moves in waves. I mean, right now we're in this dark age, quote unquote, where everything has to be dark and brooding. But, the pendulum will swing back.
Yeah, I think we're getting away from that, though.
I hope so.
Yeah, they often do. I was going to ask you, did you answer sort of when I said which would be your picks for best episodes of SG1 and Atlantis? You answered SG1. Did you answer Atlantis?
No, I don't think I answered that one, but there's a lot of good ones. I think, I don't know if I could say that this is the best one, but obviously I love Midway when Teal'c comes to town.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
And Tower Rodney, which sort of connects with this episode we're talking about today.
Yeah. I believe that was also Brad, right?
Probably. Yeah. I don't remember, but yeah, that's the opposite. He gets super smart instead of super dumb.
Yeah.
So that's a great one. And Grace Under Pressure, remember that one? Which is, as far as I can tell, a sort of a spin on the SG1 episode that is just called Grace, where Samantha Carter is on the ship.
Yes.
I don't know if that's that has to be a thing, right?
Yes, it is a thing. It was a thing. Again, Martin Garrow doing his homework. Yeah, I have to say, I mean, as you mentioned these episodes, and as I think about these three shows that I watched, these three episodes. I mean, I worked on the franchise for, I would say 17 years, 12 seasons. And people ask me, how many times I've watched the show, and it's tough to answer that question because I don't think I've actually watched a completed, finished episodes of a lot of these shows. Because when you're working on the production, you're watching the dailies and you're watching the various, the director's, the producer's cut, the director's cut. You're watching the mixes. So by the time, the episode is locked, you're just so over it. But I know Akemi, my wife, wanted to check out Stargate, and she found, as she went in Atlantis, she couldn't really get into because she found the effects a little too dated. But she ended up loving Universe, and I remember we were watching Universe with her and thinking, wow, actually we did really good work. I mean, how hard you work at the time, but being able to step back and watch it with someone who's never watched it before is kind of a treat. And having watched The Fifth Race again, and after so long, and The Shrine. The Shrine is an episode that I appreciate a lot more now upon viewing it many years later. I mean, I thought it was a very good episode back then, but now I can see why all the fans responded the way they did, and it makes me actually want to maybe sit down to a SG1 Atlantis rewatch someday. Yeah,
well, I do that all the time, every year.
Excellent. So we'll put that one on the list. Excellent. We're going to time it. So in addition to Time Loopalooza, we'll do a dedicated Stargate SG1, Stargate Atlantis rewatch party, and I'll try to kind of deep dive and find some trivia on each of the episodes. And if you guys are interested in that, let me know.
I know I am. You wrote Whispers, right?
I did.
That was a pretty sweet episode. I'm curious as to what the normal fan reaction was to that one, but I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, I think they hated it.
Really? Because it's got such a nice atmosphere and feel to it.
Yes, that was like a big deal, having to fog up and the set, and it was like a very challenging episode, and the prosthetics and everything. The guest stars were wonderful, but it was one of those atypical episodes, and fans, although I personally prefer those kind of standalone out there episodes like Whispers, the fans didn't love it. But at the end of the day, one of the great things about working on Stargate or watching Stargate is that we had like 20 episodes a season, and each one was like a mini movie, and you could do, one would be an action adventure, another one would be kind of more of a comedy, another one would be more horror, like Whispers, or Nightwalkers. So we could always change it up and try something new. So if you didn't like one episode, next week there will probably be something to your liking.
Yeah, that's what I love about episodic shows, because the writers can really stretch their feet and get, try to come up with interesting ethical dilemmas, or different things every week. It's a new entire story, and it's just not the same going on and on and on and on. It's so much stretching going on in serialized shows today. Yeah. I've been watching Andor, and it's like, it's a great show, but damn, do they stretch out the time. Certain arcs that you're like, this is 3 episodes. It should have been 1, right?
Yeah. I agree. Although I haven't really watched Andor outside of 1 episode, which I liked, but I don't know if it's really enough to convince me to watch the entire show. But anyways, we're taking past an hour, and like I said, I like to keep these things around an hour long. So I thank you, Undune, for joining and weighing in with your thoughts.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's great to be here.
Excellent. All right, my friend. Thank you for joining. Thank you all for listening in. Thanks all.
All right.
Have a good day.
Take care.